Just to let you know, I am going to be recording this. I just hit record. Well, hello and welcome to everyone tonight. We are doing an officer transitions panel, and some wonderful student leaders have volunteered to help us with tonight's panel. My name is Mike Pastel, and I work in student involvement. I'll be the moderator of the panel this evening. And I would like to ask in no particular order if Alexis, Hannah, and Parm, who are the panelists attending tonight, could introduce themselves and share a little bit about themselves, and then I'll go into some of our questions.
So my name is Hannah Grulich. I'm the president of the women's rugby team for the 2019-2020 school year. I was also the secretary for fall 2018 and the treasurer for spring 2019. So I've been a little bit around on our e-board. So I think that helped me a lot and hopefully offers a little bit of advice for this today.
Hi guys, my name is Alexis Bowering. I'm the president of Public Relations Student Society of America at SUNY Oswego for the 2019-2020 semesters, and I was secretary for the fall 2018, spring 2019 semesters.
Okay. Hi everyone. My name is Parm. I'm the president of 2.5 and also the vice president of the Latino Student Union for the year 2019-2020 school year.
All right. Well, I'd like to thank all three of you for joining us tonight and for being willing to share about your experience, and at the end answering some questions. So for those of you that are joining us that are not part of the panel, there will be the opportunity to ask questions at the end. So the first question for our panelists is, what do you wish you had known going into your current position or roles? And again, you can respond in any particular order.
Yeah. So going into being president, I think I had a little bit of a leg up since I was really close with my president last year, and I was able to work alongside with her a lot. So I had a lot of experience with knowing like what the time constraints were, like what it was like to be involved. It's like with a higher up e-board position, but something I wish I had known was just like how it felt to have someone not agree with you, especially like even if it was just like a club member, in my case like team member. But it's like, people always say just go with what you believe in, and I'll probably say that later on too, but it becomes very difficult when you have like a close friend or a close teammate where they don't agree with you. So I wish before going into president that I knew that it was okay and like to be able to accept not agreeing with someone, like to a reasonable measure. If it's something very drastic or extreme, maybe like work out something, but I wish I'd known that it's okay to not have the same viewpoints as others and to look out for help, use your advisors and other people that you have that are working alongside you and with you, and not be afraid to ask for help when you need it.
Thank you.
I couldn't agree more. One of the biggest things I think I wish I had known is that you can't be everybody's friend, and that also you have to make some of the tough decisions. I mean, personally for my club, we end up having to let a couple people go. We've also had events that we were planning and last minute we had to cancel on because of other things, and it came down to me saying, okay, this is it, we're done with it, or we're gonna continue on. So it's sometimes a lot more pressure than you think you signed up for, and especially in the middle of classes, and then all of a sudden this gets thrown on your plate and you're like, okay, time to step into this executive role and then go back to, you know, being a college student. So that's probably it.
Yeah, definitely. I want to add on to that. It's definitely hard. Like you have to be that decision maker, and it's just, everyone's not, you're not taught how to do that. So it's really hard, and it's hard to transition to do that as well. But I'd say something I wish I learned before is how many resources we have on campus, because while students can be really helpful in trying to help you transition to learning about your position, like Mike and Maggie from the Point and Barbara just help you like talk through your position. You can help learn more as you go. So not necessarily you learn from students, you learn from the advisors and people there to help you.
Some great insights there in regards to balancing your role and responsibilities as student leaders, your roles as a student, because you're a student first, that's why it goes student leader, and then knowing your resources and knowing that you're not alone, from organization advisors, those in student involvement, as Parm mentioned, in campus life and other areas on campus. That's fantastic. So the next question how were your position responsibilities shared with you, and how do you plan to share them with the person who takes your role after you transition out?
So with me, like I mentioned before, I was really close with the president from last year. So she kind of took me under her wing and really brought me along to any event she went to, or she really made sure to know like, hey, like this is a mandatory thing, or I really highly recommend it for you or any e-board position now or for next year. So I was really thankful for her constant guidance throughout the whole year, because I had informed her that I was interested in running for president, like right back in September or October. So she was like, I'm going to help you out. Like, we're going to try and make this as smooth a transition as possible. And so I had been trying that. I had a few girls on my team who expressed really good interest in it. And I've been doing the same thing. They're both secretary and treasurer currently, so that works out nice. I already do work alongside with them, but I really want to implement, not just for president, but for all like 12 e-board positions that I have, like meeting with the old and new like members. So the next upcoming president, I plan on meeting with her and just being like, hey, like here's like, this is a priority that you should have, or if this doesn't get done right away, like here's a great person to reach out to. Just like really expressing my knowledge to her that I've learned over my 2 years on eBoard, and just like acting as an open resource to her and any other eBoard positions, just to say, if you have any questions or you feel like I might be a good resource to reach out to, like feel free to reach out to me, like until the end of this school year, or even until next year, because I hope to remain close with everyone next year. So just acting as an open resource is how I want to best help my girls transition next year.
Yeah, so I would have to say my previous president was more of a individual manager of types and kind of did a lot of things on his own. And even as secretary, I didn't actually get a lot of the information that would have been very helpful for this year. So this whole time was kind of a learning curve and a lot of things that went along with it. And luckily my advisor was pretty amazing, was like, so this is what you actually have to do. So that really helped out. And then also the next president is here watching with us. Her name is Kayla. So I would like to say that I have stressed to her how much I'm going to be available for her, because I'm from the community, and even if it's just responding to a text message or a quick phone call, really to let her rely on the alumni that we're going to be, to be like, hey, this is how I handled it, or because this semester some of our things got canceled, so she hopes to re-implement them next semester. Well, I have all the documents that already have everything listed out that we've ever done, so if I can go, yeah, here, let me just share that with you. Just trying to make it as easy of a process as possible, and still trying to not be like, okay, I've graduated, kick them off the ship, still be there with, life vest. So yeah.
For me, I would say I kind of got both sides of the spectrum. For 2.5, I was more, the president before me, she was more interested in getting me to meet the advisors and making that connection with the people on campus that we work with, like Lisa and Mesky and people of that sort. And for LSU, we got more of the business side. So actually, when I was shadowing for that position, they gave me like a 5-page sheet layout of the roles and all the things I have to do. So like that one was a lot more intensive in terms of information, and then 2.5 was more like making the connection. So yeah, it's pretty good.
So there definitely can be some differences depending on the nature of the organization, the programming, the level of things. So really wonderful to hear the variety of perspectives and experiences that you had that way. So for our next question, and this may be all over the place depending on your organization and things. What does a week in the life look like for you as an officer of your organization, and how may that change throughout the academic year, depending on your programming times, when your elections are, some key things that you do?
So for rugby and a lot of other club sports, we essentially have like 6 2-hour meetings, like 6 2-hour meetings a week. So we see each other a lot, both e-board members and not regular, like all of our teammates and stuff. So that already takes up a good chunk of my day. But how I work with that and working with all my e-board members is I really tried hard to say, hey, would you like to meet before practice or right after practice? So it works for both of our schedules as best as we can. and that we're already utilizing time that we have with the team together and just like adding a little bit on to like maybe we need to talk something about a new member educator, or maybe we need to talk about fundraising treasure together. Like most of our 35 girls are at practice every single day, so it makes it really nice that we have practice every day and being able to see each other. But our fall semesters, it's considered fall as like our championship season, so it's very like sport intensive. And then our spring, our typical spring is very tournament based, so we have a lot more time. For the fall, most of my time as president is spent communicating with other schools and our officials and directors of our program, and talking with like my advisors and making sure all of our stuff's in plan for travel, if we need to go to a hotel or anything, if we need equipment. And then our spring consists of like 4 or 5 tournaments, but we really use our springs to give back to like both our campus and like the whole Oswego community. We really push like volunteer hours. Like last year we pushed 300 hours total during the spring semester from our teams. Like that was pretty awesome to see. So my roles, I stay pretty busy the whole year, but the focus on things definitely changes direction from how can we lead our team to a national championship in the fall, to how can we lead our team to having great community service and really giving back to those who have helped us out during our fall and our spring semester.
So for PRSSA, completely different. So we meet once a week on Thursdays, just for an hour. And honestly, the topics range from anything and everything. We try to, stay consistent in the news, because that is one of the main things for most of our majors. But also so we've brought in outside speakers, one for last semester. We were supposed to have one for this semester. And then we also have been going on trips for every semester. So whenever it gets around one of those times, it's really a crunch, because we have to do all of the press releases and media kits and contacting the media, and everything about it is all student run. So it's like trying to meet up with e-board members and who's in charge of who and who's actually going to contact who. And then, of course, if there's anything going on from national, because PRSSA is a club at Oswego, but PRSSA is also a national club. So we have to make sure that we're doing things within the national standards, plus in the SA standards, all at the same time. I would have to say one of the biggest things that always happens for us in the spring is Com Studies Week, that should be happening, I think like next week. So usually PRSSA holds this really big talk called What's Next, and we bring back a lot of our alumni to come and talk to students, and it's usually a really big hit. So every year we team up with the whole communication department, and they give us free reign on it, and we just take care of everything with it, with all the logistics. So I guess it really depends on what we're doing, and that's how busy we are. So
Okay, yeah, definitely, I agree with that. For us, like for 2.5 and LSU, we have each a program for an hour during the week, and then we have e-board for about 2 hours for each org. So it varies during the week, but I think the most intensive time is when we have events or we have dinners that we have to plan, because that in and of itself takes a lot of time into doing all that. So you can definitely have weeks where you just have a program to do, and then you could have weeks where you have to meet with auxiliary services to get food planned. You can meet with like lights and sound. So it just depends on what you're trying to do that week. So definitely it varies, but more often than not, I'd say it's pretty busy, because you're always just trying to get ahead and trying to plan, for the future.
And I think that's really great for incoming student leaders to hear from current officers, that there can be a lot of variety, there can be a lot of change, and there are things that you can plan for, things that you can't plan for, and the flexibility that comes with that. So thank you to all 3 of you for giving such wonderful responses to that. So building off of that, what is some general advice you'd like to offer to incoming officers? Maybe they're taking on your role, maybe they're taking a different office, but thinking of particularly the core 4 roles of president, vice president, treasurer, secretary. What's some general advice you have for those new officers that are either with us tonight or will be watching the video later on?
I would suggest really keeping, especially your core 4, to like really keep them in the loop with everything that's going on. So whenever I got a new message from like another team or another like program that we're looking to do, I'd always try really hard to keep them like in the loop. Or like maybe we're going to this school or maybe like this happened. So just really make sure everyone's informed. A big thing, like I mentioned a little bit before, is just be confident in what your decisions are and like what your abilities are. It can become overwhelming at times with either the amount of work you have or if you're having a bunch of different opinions come your way, and you might be stuck in the middle and not necessarily know what's the best or how can I satisfy everyone. Like it's okay, those times will happen, and they're gonna be tough times. There will probably be tough conversations, but just be confident that you're elected into the position because your team and your friends and your club believe that you're the best to hold that position. So if you're like in a rut or you feel really overwhelmed, like don't forget about that you're in this because you're supposed to be there. And then I also would highly suggest really utilizing your resources on campus, both people within your own club, your advisors, other people that you might not have thought of before, but can actually act as great resources if you're trying to plan a community service event or an athletic event. Like really don't be afraid to go out there and reach out for help if you ever need it, and use all the resources that you can.
Yeah, I agree with everything she just said. The biggest thing I can always just stress is ask questions. I will tell that to everybody forever and ever, no matter what you're doing. Ask questions because you don't know what somebody else might know, and it might just help you out. One of my best friends is actually the president of Women's Choir on campus. And I was like, wow, I don't know how to do this thing. And she's like, oh, it's simple. It's just this. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay, thank you. So even other students, even if they have nothing to do with your club, could help you. Like everybody at the point is a huge resource. And like when you get into your position, like I cannot recommend strongly enough to go talk and sit down with everybody in there and just be like, what should I know? What should I do? I had no idea how to use Laker Life. Mike walked me through the entire thing because I was like, I don't really think I've ever used it before. And this is literally like what they're like there to do. So just take advantage of all the different resources that the school has to offer, and always just like follow your gut feeling, I guess, because just like Hannah was saying, everybody's going to try to be like, oh, well, you should do it this way, you should do it that way. Like, at the end of the day, it comes down to your decision, and you have to be comfortable with the decision you made. So make sure that you always stand by your decision. So that's about it.
Yeah, definitely asking questions is definitely a major transition to your role. But I would say also don't be afraid to make mistakes, because I feel like when you make mistakes, that's how you're gonna learn and how you're gonna like someone who had the position before you could have made the same mistake, but then they learned it somewhere differently. So the way you have to learn it is just how you're gonna be able to transition. I feel like that was a major thing for me because I just felt like I didn't want to do anything the way people did it in the past. I wanted to do it my way. So definitely just don't be afraid, because sometimes what the way you want to do that you think it could be wrong could turn out way better than you expected. So definitely just don't be afraid to make mistakes. And I think it helps you connect with your board as well, because I feel like if they see you putting yourself out there trying to like make things different and take the extra step, then they feel more comfortable coming to you with ideas that they have, or feel more comfortable in the sense that they can make mistakes as well and then learn from them too.
Couldn't agree more. I think learning from our mistakes is something that can be a great teacher. And I think we've seen that in popular culture as far as Yoda helping Luke in Star Wars and other things like that. And something we've seen the point a lot with student organizations. Briefly, in giving our panelists a chance to catch their breath, I'm going to share my screen, and then we'll also have some time to go into questions for those of you attending, because part of what I'd like to share as they catch their breath is that we do have a sheet that when we would be doing this program live in say MCC 133 or MCC 201, which would have been the case if we weren't remote, we'd be handing out this neat sheet that gives some insights into a smooth transition, working with new officers, specific information to share with them. And this is something that you can go into Laker Life, and no, I did not cue Alexis to make that plug for Laker Life. But if you go into Laker Life and then visit our page, Student Involvement at the Point, you'll be able to then scroll down to our documents section and download or view this document there. So it's there available for you. And I'm going to stop sharing the screen at that point. And the other thing that I have to share is that Okiri, one of our graduate assistants in student involvement, has transitioned that great handout into some really cool slides that we will be sharing and featuring over our Instagram page. So if you're not following us on Instagram, make sure to check out _. Oswego and start following us and look for those slides that'll be coming out in addition to the student organizations that we've been featuring for a while. So with that, I'd like to offer the opportunity for those attending tonight to ask questions of our panelists. And you can ask those in general, so anyone on the panel can answer, or if you do have a specific question for a specific person on the panel, that's okay too.
Oh,
Yeah, that's the mode.
well, I'm not able to see somebody right now. How much you thinking? How much should I go see?
Instagrams?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Okay, do we have a question from Brett? Nope, guess not.
I have a question.
Oh, Carrie, do you have a question?
Yes, I do have a question. Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, feel free to ask your question.
All right. For those who don't know me, I'm a student. I'm a GA, the graduate assistant at the Point. I work at the Point, but I'm also involved in the student organization, the Human Computer Interaction organization. It's a grad-based organization in Oswego. My question is kind of like based on like our organization. The dynamics of our organization is kind of different. Just like most of the grad students and people in the program don't live on campus. Like about program is also 100% online, and as it is on campus. So in terms of building like interaction with like other members, because most of our events are kind of focused and tailored towards things around campus, and we're trying to get more people involved as so they can get the best experience out of their, not just their college experience, but also their degree and building those connections as well. How can someone like what are ways like eBoard can like implement like ideas and things that can like attract those people who are also like that happen to go to school online and can be on campus to go to technical and events. How do we reach out to those people? How do we tailor our events to them?
So for my club, at least, I know that I'm working with, I actually intern for Alumni Relations and Development, and we're actually going to have an alumni come in and we're going to do like a Zoom class call thing. For that, like my whole group, we're going to put it out. We have an email list, and then also we put out on our social media. So I guess the best way for people to know is just to follow different Oswego social medias for something that they're interested in. For at least that's what PRSSA is doing. We try to reach as many people as possible, and we're open to everybody. But I don't know much about other clubs.
For us, we do a lot of, like, we have a really active Instagram page, but we also have a Facebook as well. We try tabling either for like fundraising or community service stuff a lot in MCC as well. So it might be more difficult for students that are off campus to come to like on-campus tabling or like really know about like our on-campus events, but we also really utilize our social media platforms. And when we do like the involvement fair at the beginning of each semester, on all the little pamphlets we give out, it says our social media handles, so people can really quickly reach that and be connected like no matter where they are.
Yeah, definitely. No, for us that we have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, sometimes even Snapchat, but that's not that really effective when you're trying to share like flyers, stuff like that, because they only stay around for a certain amount of time. But definitely we try to, sometimes we occasionally go live during a program, so people who are not able to actually be there during the program can participate, and give them like the opportunity to make comments and things like that. So I mean, I know it's definitely hard for students, especially GAs, because the programs are really late some days. So then just being able to, I guess, the social media is a really big aspect of trying to be connected with the other orgs. And I know that at the end of our programs, we do announcements where people from other orgs can share like events that they have upcoming. So what we do, we also feature their flyers or their information on our story so that people can see them. So look, we're all trying to be interconnected in a way.
I think those are some amazing responses, and adding a little bit to that, thinking of as Parmit shared, maybe doing like an Instagram live or a Facebook live with a professor around a fun topic that's related to HCI that way, and maybe that would bring other people in to view it, or it would give a chance for them to check it on their story later on. And being non-conventional, once we're all back together again in the fall, maybe seeing what is a time when most people in the program have a course, and is there an off time after that where there could be like a brown bag lunch series or something like that, and not falling into the paradigm of having meetings from 4 to 7 o'clock. Looks like we have a message in the chat, so I'll read that out from our friends with the COSA. Do you have any recommendations on how to get your team and officers to respect deadlines? As presidents or another officer, sometimes it's a challenge to have other officers and members meeting those deadlines. So I'm paraphrasing this a little bit. And how might you help them do that so things are done on time or not at the last minute?
So I know, at least for PRSSA, the biggest thing about deadlines is that they have to be reasonable. It can't be like you just give somebody an assignment and say, I need this by tomorrow, unless they've already known about it before. The biggest thing with deadlines and how to get people to respect it, I think, is to show them like the consequence if you do not achieve it. Because I know for us, you need to get a press release out at least a week before. And if they don't do that and they don't get the flyers, then we go, okay, well then this is going to drastically affect this. So I guess it's just showing people that if you do not follow through, there will be a consequence to it. It could be big or small, but there still is something that comes from it. Is probably the biggest thing with deadlines, for me at least.
Yeah, I agree with Alexis as well. Like, for myself, like for my positions and my ABOR members, I try and give them at least a week in advance. Sometimes like stuff always happens where it just pops up no matter where you are, what you're doing. So that can be stressful, but you also like you might have to have tough conversations. So I had to have a few of those with like a repeat e-board position this year, just about like honestly same issue. I asked for stuff to get done in reasonable time. It was about 2 weeks out and they hadn't gotten it done yet. So I just sat down with them and was like, hey, like Alexa said, like this, now that this wasn't done, like this isn't going to happen, or maybe we're not going to be able to do this next upcoming event. Like you didn't just hurt yourself and upset me, but you hurt the whole team. And like, it is hard to have like face-to-face conversations with someone, and especially if someone's like your friend or your close club member, like they're not fun to have. But especially being as president or any like core four, like president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, I feel like being able to be like that advocate for like timelines and deadlines, and really just being able to have those conversations, hopefully infrequently, hopefully you don't have to have many of them, but being able to hold those conversations will really help not just specific e-board members, but the whole club as like a collaborative, work together and make sure that deadlines are either met or stuff is done like early or at a reasonable time and done to quality.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like I find myself on both sides, because I definitely have been, the one setting a lot of deadlines, and then sometimes you miss them. So I feel like the main thing that I learned is that you just have to be in constant communication with people. Because when I set a deadline and then things aren't done, like I'm more frustrated at the situation, and then either can come across to the person or stuff like that. So I would rather the person either reach out to me before and give me like a reasonable time saying that, they're not going to be able to make this deadline, and now we need to come with like a plan B, instead of having to telling me that night, like, oh, I can't make this deadline. So definitely things need to get done. So especially for the treasurer position, I know that's a position that everything needs time sensitive. So when you have events, you have to fill out the POs a couple weeks in advance. So if that isn't done, then it kind of like derails the whole process. So definitely just being able to communicate well with the people who are setting deadlines and the people who have the deadlines as well.
I would echo that too in regards to keeping communication going and having it ongoing. And then you also start to set a trend where other officers can do that, where they know people aren't going to wait till the last minute to share about it, and that there's that constant follow-up as to where we're at. The other idea that I'd like to share for programs that you know are happening out there is to look at them from reverse. So say it's the start of the fall semester and you know you're looking to do a program in early November. What do you need to do to get that done? So if you're discussing in September, okay, we need to have the reservation in so far in advance, we need to do this, and setting up those milestones so that way it doesn't sneak up on you. It's one of those things that you can plan and deal with in advance. And maybe part of what all you need to say is, we know we need 3 weeks to put this together. It's the first week in November, so we're just going to put it on our chart so we revisit it in October. Or maybe it is something that needs that constant work that way. So that way it's not a surprise that's always being discussed that way. Okay, do we have a question from anyone? I think we have another question. Feel free to jump in, Isaac.
How do you guys do with dealing with conflict? Because I know I've been a part of some organizations where there was a lot of conflict-heavy altercations, and I just want to know, like, how do you guys go about that? Because I know there's sometimes where there's altercations where two people or more than one person is involved in something, and then sometimes the board or the organization can start picking sides, or some of them, you know, escalate further to like where the entire organization, even new members, are involved in it. So how do you guys in your respective organizations handle altercations, especially when it comes to like the quote unquote beef?
For us, I really tried to advocate myself as like a mediator, I guess is the best word for it. So if someone had a problem with someone else on the team, I would always put myself out there like, hey, like, I see an issue arising between X and Y. Like, if you need to like talk to someone, like, I won't spread information. Like, that's not my position. That's not for you. But I would also like both try and settle it myself, but also really try and find like maybe the core 2 or 3 that were like the root of the problem or the root of the drama, and try and help them have a productive conversation, instead of like getting, hopefully the whole team's not involved by it. It has happened before, and it's pretty tough when the whole team is all fighting each other. But I just tried to pinpoint it really early, just say, you guys need to have a conversation. Like, you can do it like over the phone, in person, with me there, without, and offer them like any outside resources. But that's only happened a few times. That's what I've done so far, and it seemed to work pretty well, but I'm interested to see what other people say as well.
Yeah, so actually we had 2 e-board members that we ended up letting go from the e-board last semester due to some issues that we had. So I completely understand this question, especially because then it kind of turned into us versus them type of scenario. And so I've been an RA for 3 years on campus, so I'm actually trained in talking people down and doing all that other stuff. So basically what I can say when it comes to a beef, if it's within your e-board, like Hannah was talking about, like between the members, with members, I would say as a president, like just kind of nip it in the butt, say this is not the time or the place for this. But when it goes to being in your e-board, what we did was we tried to talk it out first, and we used our advisor, we did everything he told us, and then the situation still elevated a bit. And that's when I went through and we looked at the bylaws, and we talked with SA. I talked with the Chief Justice of SA, I believe is his title. I talked with Mike. So that's the thing, is you just have to like know your resources and know what actually is in your power, because some people are like, well, I'm president, I can make this decision. But if you look at your bylaws, it's actually like everybody on the e-board has to vote for it, or it could be completely reversed. So it's really just knowing I guess how to keep it contained, because you don't want that spreading either, because I mean, people we let go were really great people that just didn't fit right together, I guess is the best way to say it. I mean, I still have classes with them too, so you want to make sure that, like, you know, you don't want to totally insult people, but you want to make sure you do what's best for your club. So just trying to de-stress it out and nip it in the butt first thing. Don't let it run out.
Yeah, definitely. I know for me, well, when we have our e-board meetings, we try to definitely separate like personal and professional. So when we have the meetings, we want to debate, we're trying to get the best message across with the org. So I feel like we definitely had the same issue. We had to let a couple members of our past e-board last semester go. It definitely is. It's hard to transition from like, you know, being friends to the president or vice president, the person in charge. But you just have to make sure you stick with it. And in terms of like trying to mediate the conflict, I feel like it helps to discuss it as well. We decided that it would be best if people have an issue that they bring it to the board together. If they, or if not, they don't feel comfortable to bring it to the president and vice president. But it's definitely, when you work on a team with people, you're bound to have conflicts. So I feel like the best way to deal with it is just put it all out there and just make how you feel known. Because like if you don't feel comfortable, that was the issue that we had. People didn't feel comfortable saying their ideas or what they wanted to do during e-board, so they would say it after or before the meeting. So definitely just, we're on a team, you know, some people have bigger teams, some people have smaller teams. So I think right now we have about 8 on one of my e-boards. So just putting it all out there and being able to talk with everyone is a definitely major thing to have with everyone.
And just one more quick thing. Email is the official form of communication at SUNY Oswego, and I cannot stress that enough. If you're sending out like big things for your e-board or for your members, always do it through email. Don't do it, like you can do it through other things, but make sure it's also in email because that is what runs SUNY Oswego. So just keep that in mind.
Insec, feel free to follow up. I see you had your hand raised.
Oh, I'll raise my hand to ask that question, actually.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Apology. I wanted to make sure if you had a follow-up, you were included.
No problem.
And I would echo the sentiments of all the panel, and email is official. The other thing, and it's a little more challenging now that we're remote, is group chats can lead to a lot of dysfunction in organizations. So while they can be great to get information to a lot of people quickly, especially when there's a change, once conflict starts to occur or you sense some tension, shut down the group chat, remove the conversation from that. And when we are on campus, see what can be done to have a small group meeting with the key people so you can look each other in the eye, talk through the conversation, involve your advisor, involve a member of the SA court, involve myself or another member of the student involvement team so we can assist with that. Because by the time sometimes those very heated exchanges in group chats that then can morph into something far worse than anyone ever intended, by the time that is brought to us, it's too late, and it's hard to repair friendships, get officers to work together again that way. So the sooner you can sit down and have that conversation, and maybe that means Zoom, or maybe that means FaceTime or some other things now too, or just calling an official timeout. Look, this is getting too heated. We need to take a few days before we revisit it that way, because that can help with the, you know, everyone's involvement as team members and the success of the organization as a whole.
I have a question. So I know it's going to vary depending on the organization, but how does your organization divide roles and responsibilities between the e-board? Is there like a hierarchy of, you know, the president makes the decision and then kind of gives either the secretary, treasurer, VP, or if you have other e-board members, kind of gives them like a project to do or something? And for your organization, are they predetermined? I know that I think Parma said that he got a sheet of what the rules and expectations were, or do you see it change year to year in what works best?
For us in our, do you want to
We got it, yeah.
Okay, so for our, for rugby, we, in our constitution, it has a full like 2 or 3 pages about what each role does. So we try our best to follow like that year to year, and that's what I've seen as well during my 3 years at rugby. But with me specifically, like how I like kind of split it up myself this year is that I, as president, did like all the like quote unquote official stuff, so like talking with other teams and officials and other e-board members like that. And then with my VP, our VP traditionally hasn't gotten like many roles or like many projects to really do. So I really tried to advocate my vice president this year for helping out our quote unquote tier 3 positions, like community service, fundraiser, public relations, all like this quote unquote smaller e-board positions. I really pushed her to like help them, be their like go-to girl, just really be like that extra voice. And that also helped in a nice way to like split up stuff that I had going on too. So that gave me a little bit of freedom. But I definitely felt around with it for the first month and saw like how much could I personally handle, how much could my VP handle, and then kind of just went from there. And I think personally my system worked pretty well, but it definitely like 100% varies between each and every club. So just kind of finding how it works for you and what works best for all the programs that you have and seeing how it goes from there.
Well, I'll say for us, that in our constitution, we have like a breakdown of like each role and like what they're responsible for. And I feel like that transitions from semester to semester. Like see my list, I would be able to pass it on and add on whatever new events we have on campus. And I feel like in terms of like dividing up new things, like we have, when we create new events or new things we want to bring to campus, we kind of try to split it evenly into the roles. So let's say if you're trying to bring a new event and we have to like, you know, we have to book the auditorium, so that goes to secretary, and then we have to like think about the budget, so that would go to treasurer, and then we have to think about decorations and like things like that. We just split it up in terms of like new events that try to fit the position that you're in as best as you can.
So mine actually is not in the Constitution. We just got the 4 things. Nothing's really listed in it. But also our Constitution wasn't updated until right about nowish. So that's a time. But basically, I think that it's smart to have like a set thing of like, well, everything treasurer does. Secretary always sends out emails, little things like that. But personally, I think that it should vary from semester to semester because you don't know what the e-board's going to be like. And like, I know that it all depends on the semester because all of a sudden you could have an insane amount of workload come onto you and different positions could have it. So I think it's really just talking to your e-board and knowing them and for them to know themselves well enough. And you'll learn this as you go. It's not something you know right when you get started in August, but like by end of September, you're going to know, hey, if this person says they can get it done by the end of the day, they will get it done. If this person says they can get it done by the end of the day, they might, but it's probably going to be tomorrow morning. So it's just getting a feel for like who's on your team and like how much like they know themselves.
Yeah, that I can't agree more with that one. Like for some reason my team really struggles with that sometimes, but just knowing like who's on your side and who's like really finding a person who's your go-to person if there's like you had something thrown at you today and it's due in 12 hours, like finding that person that's like, we need to sit down, I need help, you're like the best person for it. Like really knowing that person, or if you have multiple, that's even better. But just having that person, you know, it's like right on your side to help you is really, really helpful for especially stressful events that can pop up anytime.
Okay, I know that there were more responses after our friends at COSA had shared about talking about that more, so I'm not sure if that was covered or not. And I think our panelists did a wonderful job of showing some balance in regards to there should be some specific things delineated in the Constitution. So the president's responsible for A, B, C, D, and the treasurer for E, F, G, and how that plays out. But then what Parm and Alexis really shared too in regards to what are our strengths and how those strengths play out. And if we know someone's passionate about this, or we have this new project, breaking that up. And that's also a great opportunity to start to empower and train future officers, because you may have those first year or second year students who aren't officers yet, but you've seen some strengths, or you know they're an officer in another organization and can do something in trying to expand that way too, so it's not all on the core 4 that way. Do we have other questions? Okay, I'd like to invite our panelists for any closing thoughts that they might like to share on being an officer, becoming an officer, and final thoughts.
first things first, like make sure you have fun with your club. You joined for a reason. You joined to meet new people, try new things, fulfill a passion of yours. So even when you are having like a great time, or even if you're having a terrible time at like current moment, like make sure you have fun with your position and where you are, because sometimes can be overwhelming, but also like be confident in the people that you're working with and all the resources that you have. Like I can't stress that enough, to utilize your resources on campus. Everyone's there to help you out. Everyone's on your side. So really use them. Don't be afraid to ask questions, even if you think it's silly or you could find the answer. If you have the question, might as well ask it. There's no loss if you ask it or not.
I would have to say the biggest thing is be proud that you're on an e-board, because there are thousands of kids that go to each school, and the fact that you could be president, vice president, any position really, and that you're going to put your heart and soul to it. Like, I know there's nights that like I'm on the phone talking about PRSSA until 11 o'clock at night, or maybe even later, and you put so much effort and energy into this club, and it kind of becomes your baby, or at least I don't know about other presidents, but mine definitely became my baby. So just be proud of like the work that you do, and always make sure to say thank you to your e-board, because they're going through it too. I mean, we're all college kids. 1,000 things are happening, and the fact that you still take that extra time to go those extra steps is something that you all should be really proud of.
I would say definitely be able to do the best you can. Like, you can't do any better than that. So I feel like that's a major point. And also just think about that someone believed in you to have that position. So just make that position your own. Like, people who supported you, people who wanted to see you in a position, now you're there. So they want you to see you thrive. So just enjoy it as well, because, you know, having a position can be stressful at times, but the amount of, I don't know, I just feel like you just feel happy when you have, like, I don't know, for us, when we have like a really good event, and it's like everything just like, you know, it's not perfect, but like everything went off, and like, you know, you just try to be as best as you can.
I don't think there's much I could add to that. I think all three of our panelists shared some very genuine personal beliefs, feelings, and thoughts on what they've done with their roles and what their organizations mean to them. And I could feel the passion, even though we're not together in a room, like in 201 or 133 MCC. And that's just really cool to be able to get that long distance this way. In closing, I would like to offer for anyone who's attending the session, or for those of you who are going to be watching us online, to again check out the Instagram page for The Point, and the wonderful slides that Okiri created will be coming out over the next few days. Make sure your officers are updated in Laker Life in a brand new end of the academic year checklist. It will be coming out for Student Orgs too. That'll be emailed out and posted in the documents section for student involvement at The Point by Monday as well. So some things to be looking forward to that way. Again, I thank you all, and you'll probably be able to, if you want to see yourself or share with friends or refer this to your organizations, hopefully within a couple of days, this will be on the Campus Life YouTube page as well. So thank you, stay healthy, and good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.